our Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix.
F1 driver ratings. Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, let's just pop on our like polite seatbelts and get ready for the chaos. And start with Gabriel Bortoleto. Started the race in 14th, finished 18th. It is going to be a 6 out of 10 for Gabriel Bortoleto. I'm doing a little tip of the cap to the fact that he made Q2, although it felt illegal the way that he got there. Justice for Ollie Bearman is what I would say. But yeah, he had a reasonably good qualifying. Of course, the circumstances made that some drivers got screwed, but his teammate Hulkenberg made a mistake in those final couple of corners, and the rookie did not. Of course, it was a very mediocre race from Bortoleto. He pitted early, and then I do like, as well as I go through the drivers, some of them saying I got really screwed by the safety cars, and others also saying they got screwed. And I'm like looking at it going, some less so than others. You were just on a poor strategy, mate. But yeah, Bortoleto, I've gone for 6 out of 10.
I've also gone for a 6 out of 10 for Bortoleto. It's a shame for him, really, because he had a great start as well. You know, it wasn't just the qualifying. He was running quite high up at the start of the race. I think he was behind Lewis Hamilton, actually, and we were going, oh my word, this is this could be a great result here. And then, you know, the pit stops play out, and it just didn't work for him at all. He struggled with the tyre deg, which we kind of did see from a few of the rookies. But it wasn't a disaster of a weekend, but maybe a bit of a what might have been.
What might have been indeed. The fans gave Bortoleto a 5. Nico Hulkenberg started the race in 17th, finished 12th.
I've gone for... a 7 out of 10.
What was it, between 6 and 7 or 7 and 8?
7 and 8, actually.
Yeah, okay.
I think, and again, this is going to happen a lot during these ratings, that some people were kind of flattered by the kind of fact of the VSCs and safety cars working in their favour. But that being said, Hulkenberg still drove a very respectable race, qualified poorly, but then made the other strategy work. And he actually passed Alonso, didn't he, at one point, for 10th place, and we're thinking, oh my word, are they going to score points again here? But slipped down to 12th, but 12th is still obviously a good result for a Sauber.
Certainly is. I am going to lock in an 8 out of 10. Screw it. We're giving. I was going to go for a 7 as well, but I feel more generous. When else am I going to give Hulkenberg an 8 or above? As you say, he did gain from starting on the hard tyre, then being able to pit when the VSC came out. But then he continued on those medium tyres all the way through to the end and had a very solid race. You know, before the VSC came out, he was running in P8, just chilling. Wait, hold on. P9, P8. P8, so it's P9. Just thinking on the spot there. Apologies. Great podcasting. But it's still a very good performance from Hulk. He was up there. It was what's this polar bear doing in meme. So yeah, 8 out of 10 for Hulkenberg. A 7 from the fans. Alex Albon started the race in 7th, finished 5th. Ooh. It's got to be a 10. It's got to be a 10 out of 10 for Alex Albon. Even though it could have been even better. And then what do you give him? An 11? You can't. It's out of 10. But I still believe he is fully deserving of a 10 out of 10 this weekend. Great qualifying in Q3, just behind his teammate Carlos, and then had such a strong early phase of the Grand Prix, running in 3rd position. And, of course, it didn't fully work out for him. Could have easily been a 3rd place had he got through on Leclerc at the end. I don't put any blame on Albon for trying a lovely little move around the outside, which the door was closed as the rules, the wonderfully written rules of racing.
Very understandable rules.
Yeah, really great rules. But still, an amazing performance all the same, and Albon once again silencing the critics.
Definitely. I have gone for a 9 for Alex Albon. which, again, I've said this so many times about Williams, shows how well they're doing, that a P5 for a Williams is a 9 out of 10. But I do think that car is a lot more competitive now. We saw that in qualifying. He was slower than Carlos in qualifying, but of course had the better strategy, which he made work. But I can't give a 10 just because I do feel like the end of the race was maybe a little bit of a missed opportunity on those fresh tyres. Don't get me wrong, fantastic drive. It's very close to a 10. But I just can't help feel like what might have been had he stuck that move on Leclerc and gone off after Piastri. Piastri himself, in the cool-down room was like, if Albon had got past, I think I'd have been a sitting duck from him. Still a really good drive, but it's close to a 10, but I can't give him a 10. It's a great drive, and Alex Albon, how many times have we said this? Apologies, because oh my word, top 3 driver of the season without doubt.
Absolutely. The fans gave Alex Albon a 10. Carlos Sainz started the race in 6th, finished 8th.
I've gone for an 8 out of 10 for Carlos Sainz. I think he was absolutely shafted by a very poor strategy, and his pace was really, really good. And I think despite the strategy, I actually saw someone mention this, that he was very upset about the 2-stop and was kind of saying that a 1-stop should have been the option and stuff, and he didn't want to basically overturn what the team said. But of course, go back to Ferrari, and we were praising Carlos for that. He was the one that would do that, wouldn't he? And basically say, like, no to Ferrari, need to do this. Maybe it's out of respect for his new team. But had he gone for a 1-stop, he's looking very, very quick all weekend, so very unlucky. And still get P8 despite a difficult strategy, I think is a good performance from him.
I've also gone for an 8 out of 10 for Sainz. It's hard with these drivers that were screwed over by either the virtual safety car or the safety car, but mainly the VSC. That was the big one, wasn't it, for those that had pitted versus the ones that hadn't. There is a part of my brain that goes, you make your own luck as well in some ways.
This is going to be why it's so difficult, because
it's hard. Yeah,
just for a bit of behind the scenes, we our little like driver ratings sheet, we have like the information about the race and stuff, and one of them is a quote and from each driver, and every single driver that's had been screwed is like, oh, the safety car didn't work out. And it's how much you buy into, did that really happen? Was it legitimately you got screwed? Is it a little bit of racing driver excuse? And that's why these ratings will be so difficult, I think. I'm
still going to give him an 8 because he still finished 8th after all that and was looking pretty strong indeed. The fans gave him an 8 as well. Isack Hadjar started the race in 9th, finished 9th. I am going to go for an 8 out of 10 for Isack Hadjar. A strong performance once again. Definite what-ifs of Hadjar's weekend. In qualifying, making that mistake where he could have easily started P5 and then his race would have been so much easier from there. He still scores a couple of points, beats Lawson, I would say, pretty comprehensively. Always looked like the stronger Racing Bulls driver. Pretty impressed still, once again, from Hadjar, but he's going to have one of those seriously breakthrough weekends, I think, in the not too distant future, and then he will be promoted, whatever you want to call it. Those stories will start then. But no, Hadjar, please just stay in that seat for the rest of the season, please.
I've also gone for an 8 out of 10 for Isack Hadjar. Completely agree with you. What might have been my notes here, I'm just kind of, I can't see past that P5, like what might have been without that mistake, and he was absolutely fuming by it. Of course, it's all hindsight, but had he been closer to the front and done that, the strategy that he did, which worked out well, could have been an unbelievable result, and I do think that will happen. But he has just been so impressive.
The fans gave him an 8. Liam Lawson started the race in 15th, finished 14th.
I've gone for a 5 out of 10 for Liam Lawson. It's a difficult one because it's a disappointing result when you look at how he's done to his teammate. He is one of the drivers that got, screwed over in that strategy as well. But also qualifying, he was very unfortunate. He wasn't that far off and the red flag timing really screwed him over. So I'm not going to give him like a 3 or something just based on, because of that, because I don't think that was his fault.
It wasn't a horrendous performance. I'm going to go for a 5 out of 10 as well for Lawson. I'm really interested. Like, if we didn't have a safety car or anything to give freer pit stops, what these early pitters would have actually been able to do. The two stoppers
would have been so fascinating to
because
see.
Obviously Leclerc, for example, we'll get onto him. He pitted on lap 10, went on the charge, and just before the VSC came out, he was right behind Hamilton. But the question mark was, how much longer is he going to be able to go on those tyres? It's a shame that we couldn't get those answers, because I was thoroughly intrigued by them. But back to Lawson, he was another one to pit really early, and just an anonymous race, to be honest with you. As he said, he got caught out by the VSCs and safety cars today. And unfortunately, that's what put us down the back. Well, also, his qualifying was pretty poor, and, went on an aggressive strategy. It didn't work out. So, yeah, 5 out of 10 from me. The fans gave him a 4. Ollie Bearman started the race 19th, finished 17th. My biggest good surprise of the weekend. I'm going to give him a 5 out of 10. I think Haas were absolutely abysmal this weekend. It's such a shame to see how topsy-turvy this team can be when it comes to their overall speed. Of course, he started 19th. Ocon started 18th. Ollie Bearman, justice for him once again. I will shout that out once more. He should have been into Q2. But yeah, apart from that, he tried to make it work. He was lapped, of course, under the safety car because he had a massive issue in the pit stop, which forced him to then stop again. And it's a 30-second pit stop. So cheers. Take care.
I'll go for a 6 for Ollie Bearman. I think he was robbed in qualifying. Still don't know how that happened, because I'd have been asking a lot more questions and kicking off about it if I was Haas, because he was literally knocked out and starting 19th when he would have been into Q2, and we all know how difficult it is to pass around Imola. And then he was actually running quite well, and going to do a one stop, which we know was the better strategy, but that pit stop screwed him over, of course, for them not fitting the wheel properly. So I don't think the actual P17 finish reflects on what he probably would have done this weekend with the pace he had.
Fans gave Ollie Bearman a 5. Esteban Ocon started the race in 18th, did not finish.
I've gone for a 5 out of 10 for Esteban Ocon. Poor quali, anonymous in the race and just retired. He actually tried to do kind of wonder strategy. I don't know if he's practicing the Bernie Collins special for Monaco of pitting really early and hoping to catch the pack.
One, didn't he? I'm pretty sure he pitted on lap 1.
Yeah, he did. So maybe it's a practice for Monaco. And yeah, very odd strategy, but didn't work out. Tried something different and retired. So hard to judge, but Haas kind of went back to being that nowhere team. They only are either 10th or 19th and 20th, it seems, this season, and nothing in between.
I have gone for a 4 out of 10 for Esteban Ocon. Wasn't a good weekend from him. We're comparing him up against Ollie Bearman here, and in my opinion, Ocon as a race winner should be, in theory, on paper, maybe doing a little bit better than what Bearman's able to put down. I can't believe he agreed to that strategy, to be honest with you. The whole narrative of this weekend was, well, we're going a step softer. We're going to try and force a 2-stop here. And Haas and Ocon went lap 1. We'll pit on lap 1 and try and do 62 laps on the hards. It was never going to work. Ocon, I think, said after the race that it sort of caught him out, that the degradation was a lot higher for him, which was unexpected. So, hey-ho, went for something a bit different, and it did not work. The fans gave him a 5. Franco Colapinto started the race in 16th, finished 16th. Take into account this. Yes, okay. I'm going for a 5 out of 10 for Franco Colapinto. Yes, he did destroy the car. I'm not denying that in qualifying. However, I'm also taking into account the fact that he's been plonked in this car and had shown some pretty good speed especially in qualifying. It's a shame he ruined it by crashing, but I have to treat him as the newest rookie of the lot by being just plonked in the car out of nowhere and been told to perform at a high level. So I think a straight down the middle 5 respects that, but also knocks him down obviously slightly because of the fact he crashed in qualifying. So there you go.
I completely agree. I've also given Colapinto a 5. Crash was, of course, a low point, and it was disappointing for him because I think had he just not done that and even just finished he'd already kind of gotten through as well. I think the position he would have been in would have been actually a decent performance in qualifying. Still struggled in the race a bit anonymous, but certainly wasn't a bad weekend, and you do have to give him he's got a bit of kind of credit in the bank that he's basically been plonked into that car, like you say, with no preseason testing, no other racing, a lot of pressure as well. So I think right down the middle is fair because it's not absolutely awful, but equally it's not great either.
No,
so we'll see what he can do.
And he eked out a pretty decent medium tyre stint, but pitted 7 laps before the VSC came out. So he got royally screwed, I would say.
Add that to the list of drivers, the bingo card of he was screwed by the VSC.
I think it's like more screwed for Franco because he was closer to when the VSC came out, whereas lap 10, I'm like, guys, were you really going to go to the end of the race and still be quick?
Yeah, it's a bit more hindsight, isn't it?
Including my favourite driver, so we'll get onto that shortly. The fans gave Franco Colapinto a 4. Not happy at all. Pierre Gasly started the race in 10th, finished 13th.
I've gone for a 6 out of 10 for Pierre Gasly. I think he qualified pretty decent. I didn't expect the Alpines to be very good around here, despite my daughter Grace's prediction, of course. But yeah, he was very anonymous race, made a mistake, battling with Leclerc as well. I think maybe giving far too much room to his buddy and not wanting to collide with him and going completely off the road. I just want to forgetful Gasly, I think.
I've gone for a 5 out of 10 for Gasly. He had decent qualifying, starting 10th, but that mistake was costly for him because he dropped down to P14 after that battle on lap 3. So I have to downgrade him for that because after that, I'm sure he's probably running a little bit of floor damage because he was bouncing over the gravel, and he still wasn't able to get points despite the fact there was a VSC and also a safety car as well. Not the best weekend for Gasly. That mistake was not something we expect from him. The fans gave him a 6. Lance Stroll started the race in 8th, finished 15th. Oh, this is literally a tale of two halves. I'm going to go for a 6 out of 10 for Lance Stroll. Well done. Nice qualifying. The race went really bad. It couldn't have gone much worse for Stroll with how it all ended up. His teammate Alonso was fighting to the very end, but for Stroll, of course, he pitted just a bit later than the initial undercut warriors of the Leclerc and so on, and then didn't pit during the VSC, but then pit during the full safety car to go on some used mediums. Some of these teams were proper struggling out there. They were like, guys, we've got no tyres left. What do we do at this point? Because Aston, of course, don't forget, were just chucking mediums on for fun in qualifying as well. So they really were using all of their allocation and some. But yeah, I've gone for a 6 because, well done, Stroll, we got to Q3.
I have gone for a... this one's difficult. 6 out of 10. I think his qualifying was good. He wasn't a million miles off Fernando Alonso. I was tempted for a 7 just because, like Alonso, his pace was pretty decent. Got shafted, but looking kind of back at where they finished, and the drivers in between them could have done better. So I will go for a 6.
The fans gave Lance a 6. Fernando Alonso started the race in 5th, finished 11th.
I've gone for an 8 out of 10 for Fernando Alonso. He was fighting Russell and Norris at the start. And oh my word, that radio message from him cut as deep as Brazil 2012 of him staring into the abyss, because it is so accurate of what does he have to do this year to get a point, because this season, despite some Formula One fans that just kind of like look at the results and look at the championship standings and base the whole narrative on that. It's not been a bad season. He's been faster than Stroll and done well. He's just not had the luck, and this is the worst luck. He could have had an absolutely brilliant result, and as if the race that it finally comes together and he has a great qualifying, they run out of blooming tyres. Just gutting for him. The fact that he was even 7/10 still from scoring a point and almost, got Tsunoda the Red Bull, shows what a great race it was from him.
It certainly was. I've gone for an 8 out of 10 as well for Fernando Alonso. I was absolutely convinced he was going to score points after starting the race in 5th around Imola. Alas, the emotions he showed when he was fighting Yuki Tsunoda, if you haven't seen the clip, he was trying to get through at the end and slammed his steering wheel with both hands as he was still racing. So was not happy in the slightest. It just didn't work out for him. I think the pace of the Aston Martin on the hard tyres was shocking anyway. But of course, they stayed out. And as we saw later on as well with Leclerc and how he was saying about the tyres not being able to be fired up, the Astons had that same problem as well after the VSC. And they could never recover any sort of pace after that. But that being said, as you said at the beginning, it was great to see him in that Russell train, getting involved, and how he's not scored points, I will never know. But it's still an 8 out of 10, so well done, Fernando. I'm sure that will give him some solace knowing that he got an 8 out of 10 in the P1 podcast driver ratings.
I bet it won't.
The fans gave him a 7. Kimi Antonelli started the race in 13th and did not finish. I have gone for a 5 out of 10 for Kimi Antonelli. I think it was a pretty anonymous weekend if you compare it to what Miami was like. Of course, qualified P13, out-qualified by the 8th fastest car, Ferrari, both of which out-qualifying him. So pretty poor. But it was just, he had too much to do after that point. Of course, he kept Hamilton at bay for a lot of the initial stint. But after that, of course, DNF'd. So there's the shoulda, woulda, couldas, ifs, buts, and maybes. But I'm going to go for a middle of the ground 5 out of 10.
Yeah, I've also gone for a 5 for Kimi Antonelli. Qualifying was very poor based on what happened in Miami and how well he did there. Would have been gutted for it to happen. At his home race, doesn't live too far from Imola. But to be 13th when your teammate is third, is poor, of course. And then in the race, some people might look at it and go, oh well. He when he retired, he was there or thereabouts with some people that ended up scoring points, and he may have ended up getting a point or something.
It's also really hard as well when a driver has a mechanical issue to know just when it's kicked in to affect his race as well. Like,
of course,
at what point do you go, this was the moment in which...
Was he losing power?
Yeah, I mean, he said after the race, I started to lose power on the straights, and every lap it was getting worse before we had to retire the car. It's like, well, how many laps was it? But either or, he was still lacking pace in comparison to his teammate Russell. And
as much as I wanted to go, he was actually racing Hamilton for the whole race, who finished 4th, so it should be a 10 because he would have finished 3rd. But no, it was a 5.
No, absolutely not. The fans agree. They went for a 5 out of 10 as well. George Russell started the race in 3rd, finished 7th.
And I've gone for a 7. It's not a great weekend from George. Still decent enough. Qualified brilliantly, but he could not make those tyres work at the start of the race and was really struggling. And of course, his struggles is what I feel like created that massive knock-on effect. Obviously, Charles Leclerc was the one that pitted and kind of made everyone do it. But yeah, George's pace and creating that train was the thing that really, so early on as well in the race, made people go, okay, this may be a 2-stop after all. And just didn't really work for him, didn't have his usual pace. And ended up finishing behind the 8th fastest team Ferrari, like you say.
I've also gone for a 7 out of 10. Great qualifying, and he was suffering, I think, even on the laps to the grid, saying that the rear was stepping out, and I think he said after the race that they were suffering from overheating on the rear axle. And this, in fact, the first competitive session of the entire year where he's not been in the top 5. if you take into account every single competitive session. Obviously not practice, but qualifying, sprint qualifying, everything. So that just shows the kind of season that Russell is having. But I think Mercedes were lacking anyway. But he still managed to haul that car to P7. The fans gave him a 7 as well. Yuki Tsunoda started the race from the pit lane, finished 10th. I have gone for a 5 out of 10 for Yuki Tsunoda. Now, some people will go, Matt, start from the pit lane. You scored a point. Yes.
Why did he start from the pit lane?
Why did he start from the pit lane? Because he had a catastrophic incident. So I have to downgrade him for that. And I was thinking, like, okay, if I take away the crash in qualifying, what would I give a driver driving the Red Bull that's just won the race and finishing P10? Probably a 6 at best, taking into account just Yuki Tsunoda's situation. Then you downgrade it by a point because of the crash in quali, and that's where I've come to a 5 out of 10. Still a point to have gained, which is great for him, but is it good enough? Are we just chilling now? Are we like Yuki? So he just gets a free pass.
Free pass.
It's a weird situation that we're currently in. But that being said, he's just not quick enough, really, in the Red Bull still. And how much longer this will take, if there is a point, a light at the end of the tunnel for Yuki, I hope so, because I'd love to see him do well. But it's really not that good, because I think he gained as well. He gained under the sort of stoppages that we had. If we have a look at his... so he started on the hard tyres. He pitted under the virtual safety car and then went mediums all the way to the end. So it definitely was a gain for him, a net gain under the VSC. Scored a point.
I've gone for a 5 out of 10. I was umming and ahhing between a 4 and a 5, to be honest. I think it's a poor weekend, and I think you hit the nail on the head that I've seen some people going, oh, that was a really good drive from Yuki. And, you know, as much as I love Yuki and want him to do well, I can't sit here even with a fanboy hat on and say that was a good drive from Yuki Tsunoda. I know he's new to the team, but stick Sergio Perez in this exact situation, and you know, we're calling absolute like a ridiculous race. So not good from Yuki. Needs to do better, and I do think there is potential, and maybe what might have been if he'd have been able to get into you're so triggered by that word now, aren't you?
Yeah, potential.
You're just like looking at what Yuki's done so far, Bahrain, I was like, this is absolutely the right decision. He will get like a P5, a P6 at some point, and he just hasn't got anywhere near since, really. So, not great from Yuki, it has to be said.
The fans gave Yuki a 6. Max Verstappen started the race in second, finished first.
It's a 10 out of 10 for Max Verstappen. You know, despite Oscar Piastri braking so early, that he just gifted Max the win, and of course the Red Bull being the rocket ship that it is. Sarcasm. Yes, it was amazing from Max. Missed out on pole by the tiniest margin, and whether you think that the Red Bull is good now, and better than a lot of people is, I'm not going to sit here and pretend it's a tractor and rubbish. But even if it is the second best car, he still turned up with the second best car and won the race, and when the two McLarens finished. So his turn move one was absolutely sensational. We've lauded that enough and mentioned it so many times, but it was just incredible, and that won him the race. I don't think for a second that had we had VSCs, of course he got fortunate with it, take that all out of the equation, I think he wins easily anyway.
I have also gone for a 10 out of 10 for Max Verstappen. I don't think you can give him any other grade. I genuinely don't. The move he made at the start, simply lovely. It was. It really was. You can't take anything away from him. Had a poor start and still managed to come out in the lead come turn one. And then he was comfortable. He did the right strategy, which I am not surprised in the slightest. Max is like, I'm not giving up the lead. I'm not going to cover off undercuts. I'm just going to carry on. And the pace was great. Same for Lando. They both stayed out there, and it was the right decision. They managed to keep their tyres in a really good window. which showed that the one stop was probably very possible for at least certain drivers out there. But yeah, it was an almost perfect drive, to be honest with you. The fans gave him a 10 as well. Lewis Hamilton started the race in 12th, finished 4th. We're into who gained and who didn't gain from the safety cars. I have gone for an 8 out of 10 for Lewis Hamilton. I think it was a very solid drive on Sunday. Of course, qualifying was a disaster for both of them. He was stuck behind Antonelli for a very long time, but he was decisive with his moves when he had the tyres underneath him. So it was really good. It has to be said in that sort of second phase of the race. I will obviously caveat the fact that he gained from both the virtual safety car and the safety car to be able to plonk on a fresh set of boots for both of those phases. So it gave him the best opportunity to go on the attack, and he did. So I can't say that the only reason he got 4th was because he just gained from the safety car. Because no, he did take advantage of the situation that was put in front of him. But I've gone for an 8 because I don't think I can grade him any higher than that, considering everything that happened during the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix.
I've also gone for an 8 out of 10 for Lewis Hamilton. Of course, a good slice of fortune for everything that happened, but you have to be there and in it to capitalise, and that's exactly what Hamilton's done. And so many of the great drivers throughout history, we kind of go, they get their good fortune and stuff, but when they get presented with good fortune, they make the most of it, and that's exactly what Hamilton did. He had a pretty, I wouldn't say poor race, but just, he was stuck behind a lot of people, pretty anonymous, looks like it was going to be nothing special. And then he was presented with an opportunity at the end and absolutely took it. And a couple more laps, maybe he would have even been on the podium, which would have been an absolutely incredible story to happen at Imola. But ran out of laps, but still an impressive drive from Hamilton. And he looked absolutely buzzing at the end of the race. I think the crowd, he always feeds off the crowd anyway, doesn't he? And I think it was a bit of a realisation of this is why I joined this team. Even if it's painful sometimes, look at that crowd. This is everything.
The fans gave him a 9. Charles Leclerc started the race in 11th, finished 6th.
I've gone for an 8 out of 10 for Charles Leclerc. Difficult one to grade because, like his teammate, they've swapped positions. I think Leclerc was the quicker driver throughout the whole race, and unfortunately, it all kind of, I wouldn't say went to pot at the end,
went to pot.
but kind of did, yeah. The reason it's not a 9, I know some people, we're about to find out, maybe will give him a 9, and I think it is also justified because he drove superbly, and I think he had amazing pace. It's how you judge that kind of final sequence where you've got a handful of laps left, and I know he's on struggling tyres, and he did everything in his power to hold off Albon to the point where, even pushing him off the road. But I've kind of taken it as well. P4 was on if it had just held off with Albon, and because unfortunately the way Albon then went off, it also gave Hamilton the opportunity to attack him, which I don't think would have happened if he had kept Albon behind. So that's why I've gone for an 8.
I have gone for an 8 out of 10 as well. Reluctantly, actually, because that was a 9 out of 10 performance all day long. However, there is a slight movement towards the 8 just purely because of what happened with Alex Albon. I believe he was on potential. I mean, it's so hard to know these days with the racing rules and whatnot, but the stewards themselves said we had not concluded our investigation, and then Charles Leclerc gave the position back, so it didn't matter. Ferrari clearly believed that they were about to get a penalty, so you have to kind of steer towards that, I guess, because they would have analysed it over and over, you would hope. But Charles was rapid, absolutely rapid. I believed the moment he whipped out that undercut. And yes, he was very unlucky. He, of course, first and foremost had the VSC come out, which, to be honest, I wouldn't say that one is as bad, because I know he pitted on lap 10 to go for the undercut, but that's the whole... Right. Were they really going to be able to hold on for 53 laps on those hard tyres and to maintain decent speed? I'm not convinced. So I'm trying to be level-headed with this. But the second one, the safety car, that's where he did get massively screwed, because you might have heard it. There was a team radio conversation where Charles was saying, I have brand new C6s, don't I? The soft tyres, I can put those on. And Ferrari, for some reason, are like, Hamilton doesn't want to pit. And Charles was like, yeah, I don't care. I want to talk about my race. And so he eventually gets on to his race, thinking that Lewis Hamilton's not going to come in the pits. Then he sees Hamilton go into the pits and he's right behind him. So then he has to carry on, because I'm not going to double stack and then get overtaken by drivers behind me.
Everyone, yeah.
So I would say he was more screwed then, because then he was just left like a sitting duck on those hard tyres that lost all temperature behind the safety car. So I think it was a really good performance from Charles, and it's such a shame that it just didn't work out for him. The fans gave him an 8. Oscar Piastri started the race in first, finished third. It's going to be an 8 out of 10 for Oscar Piastri. A very still solid weekend. Ended up on the podium. I know a lot of people were like, it's a disaster. Oscar Piastri does not know how to race wheel to wheel. Yada, yada, yada. He's still finished on the podium and he's still the championship leader. I'm sure McLaren will be kicking themselves. I am questioning why they pitted him so early into traffic. Maybe they read the race wrong. Maybe they thought everybody was going to come in. Whatever it was a mistake from both McLaren and Oscar. I'm saying they're a team, and the driver can of course make overrides of certain decisions. And clearly Oscar was already in that mindset of, I kind of want to pit, guys. So if you could just let me know, because he was saying, I'm not sure about plan A, and that ultimately cost him potentially a chance at the victory.
Yeah, I've gone for an 8 out of 10 as well. Probably his worst race since Australia, which is saying a lot about what a great season he's had, because wasn't his finest moment, I think, based on what happened in Saudi, and is kind of saying how great it is that he's been able to kind of put one over on Max, and then equally fighting Max in Miami. And we were kind of saying, look, Oscar's the driver at McLaren that is the one that can fight Max and stuff. And he kind of, didn't expect him to slingshot around the outside. But it is a little bit of a mistake from him, of course. And then, maybe a little bit of the old Piastri that we saw in his rookie season, where struggling a bit more on the tyres. And I think you're absolutely right that he got into that mindset of, and maybe just baited by Charles Leclerc's strategy, which looked like an absolute worldie of a strategy to when we saw Russell and Alonso, basically. I think it was Russell actually holding that entire pack up, that you can slot into a nice gap. And it just didn't really work from him from there. Had Albon got through, or Hamilton had got through quicker, I think he was actually quite fortunate at the end to be on the podium, because they were coming quick at the end, the people on the quicker tyres.
Absolutely. The fans gave him an 8 as well. Lando Norris started the race in 4th, finished 2nd.
I've gone for an 8 out of 10 for Lando Norris. I think even despite a poor qualifying, which seems to be his Achilles heel this year, I do think it was a good race from him. All the criticisms that we've had throughout the year of takes too long to make moves and needs to be more assertive, I think he did do that. Of course, on the 2 moves that he did, Russell and Piastri, he had better tyre life and whatever, and an advantage, but he still made it happen. And I think you do have to also give him credit for making, or at least going with Max, unlike his teammate, and doing that one-stop strategy, which of course then became a 2 because he could pit at the end. So I don't think you can really separate, in my opinion anyway, Lando and Oscar in how they did in that race. I thought they were very similar. Oscar had a much better qualifying. I think Lando had a better race, and I think they were very similar with how they performed. So I've gone for an 8 for Lando.
Yeah, it evened out. I've also gone for an 8 out of 10 for Lando. I think that was the best thing of it, and you've mentioned it, Tommy, the overtaking confidence from Lando. It's a hard place to overtake, but to have pulled that move on both Oscar and George, yes, on quicker tyres, but it that's the kind of difference you need in order to even be shaping for a move with the way Formula One is these days. So, yeah, I was impressed with Lando in the race, but I think I'm always kind of impressed with Lando in the race. I think more so, obviously, with the overtaking side of things for this particular Grand Prix. But yeah, the qualifying, we don't tend to see these sort of 4, 5, 6 tenths of a second down laps that we've seen occasionally from Lando this year with Oscar. If Lando could just, it's the same conversation we have every single time. He can just sort out his qualifying, get ahead of Oscar. I think he'll be in the pound seats to beat his teammate and beat his championship rival. But alas, he hasn't been able to do that this time around. And Monaco, he will definitely need to do it.
Are you proud I got Q3 right as well? Didn't say Q1.
Oh, wow.
I'm learning about Formula One day by day.
You're learning about numbers. Congratulations. The fans gave Lando an 8 as well. So, who is our P1? For me, it has to be Max Verstappen because that move will constantly be burned into my brain for the rest of time on lap 1, turn 1. The best lap 1, turn 1 move I've ever seen. So Max is getting my P1. Alex, of course, is a honourable mention to this, but Max brings himself back into the championship hunt once again with a flawless Sunday. How can you give it to anyone else?
Yeah, absolutely. Has to be Max Verstappen. Only driver I've given to a 10 to, of course, as well. And just a superb drive that just was so good that even the Tifosi were chanting "do Max Verstappen," despite booing him in recent times. I think it was at one of those moments where they just kind of went, "Fair play, Max. You are really, really, really good, and also you're not fighting Ferrari for the championship, so we like you now." Yeah,
it must be. They're just like, "Yeah, you're cool, Max. We'll beat you next year."
Beat McLaren, it's fine, just not us.
Yeah, literally. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening. It's been an absolute pleasure to bring you this driver ratings episode once again. Let us know your thoughts. Oh wait, you already have, and we will see you this time next week for Monaco, which should be an easier one to grade, but then it's a 2-stop. So
I don't think it will be.
No,
it could be another absolute carnage where
I hope so.
Someone's got absolute garbage race pace and they somehow win because they pitted really early and then got a lucky VSC.
P1. All right, there you go. You heard it here first. I can't wait for it. It's going to be really exciting. So we'll be live, of course, Matt P1 Tommy on YouTube and Twitch for our watch-alongs, and we will see you very soon. Lots of love. Bye.
Bye.